What is the ultimate Springer or break barrel air rifle setup? Well, in this video, I've done all the homework, so you don't have to take the time to do any type of research. You can just check out this video and I'll break it down for you. Now, there are a number of Springer or break barrel air rifles on the market. However, as of today, I believe this setup is about the best you can get. Not to say that won't change in the future, or if this particular manufacturer will not improve their current offerings. But I've shot a video on this rifle in the past, but this is the Gamo Swarm Gen 2 Magnum 22 caliber. With alloy pellets, they're saying it can shoot over 1,300 feet per second. Now, I will say that when we have this much power, other air gunners can back me up on this, in that you need a heavier pellet to manage the power to have more accurate, more consistent groups. And I can absolutely say that is true. I have tried probably 5 different pellets. The latest pellet I have tried has been the best and most accurate by far. Now, it's also been the heaviest pellet, #1, so that's a factor. And also, this is what they call a domed pellet, in that it's shape-wise, it's the most accurate type of pellet versus a hollow point, spearhead, or a flat nose. And this particular brand, this is technically not a match pellet, but it's pretty much match quality, most of their offerings. It's the Barracuda Power by H&N. Now, they do have a match version in this pellet that's not got the copper plating on the outside of the lead like this. It's about $2 less, so this is about $28 a tin. Each tin's got 200 pieces. And the non-copper coated, which is noted as match grade, is about $26 a tin. But I like the copper coated because supposedly it's a little bit harder. It's not as soft of a metal as lead. It hits harder and it's less contact with lead. Now, I always wear gloves when I'm loading up the magazines for this unit, just as a precaution. I want to try to put my health first, limit my contact with lead as much as possible. But if by some chance I had not any gloves on me at the time of reloading, I mean, it's gonna really lower your chance of getting in contact with lead, so that's good. Worth the extra $2 in my mind. These are made in Germany, and so far, and I will also say that the consistency of these pellets, I mean, the level of quality and consistency, they're polished, and the skirts, for example, are they're just as wide as the nose of the pellet, and that allows more air to get behind the pellet. Versus a lot of the cheaper pellets I have found, the skirt is narrower than the head, and that allows air to get around and through the pellet, and really affects, believe it or not just the accuracy, but the velocity as well. If you've got a cheaper pellet, air is getting around it versus behind the pellet. I mean, a heavier pellet that's higher quality could have more velocity. I've noticed that. For example, when I sighted these new pellets in, I was hitting higher on the target than I was on the lighter pellet, but it was a cheaper pellet. And the only thing I could think of was that the skirt was a tighter fit and more air was getting behind it, even though it was a heavier pellet. So, but basically at 25 yards with those pellets and this rifle, and I'm gonna tell you about the scope that I have on it, because that's definitely a factor. I'm getting dime-sized groups at 25 yards all day. That's smaller than a squirrel's head, by the way. Now, this rifle has a 21-inch barrel. I definitely would say you wouldn't want to go shorter than a 20 on an air gun, but the scope that came on the rifle was decent. I'll say that, it was decent. I took several squirrels with it, but I felt that I needed to really up the game on the optics. So I finally got this scope. This is the Hawke 4x12x50 1-inch tube Air Max scope. Amazon, it was on sale at the time. I think it was $225 or $240, something like that. You can find deals on them. One thing I will say, I do wish this had, instead of the bell parallax adjustment, I wish it had the side focus instead of it being on the objective bell. And I do wish it had the illuminated reticle. Now, I do have a version of this scope noted as their compact, and it does have the side focus and the side parallax adjustment and the illuminated reticle, but it's a 30mm tube. So I had to get special rings, and that's on my 17 HMR rifle. And it's a wonderful scope. I wish I could have put that scope on here just for the side focus and illuminated reticle factors. But this Gamo came with particular mounting system to help with recoil, and I didn't want to have to worry about changing all of that out. So I just went with the 1-inch tube. And it's not really an issue unless you're getting into low light shooting. But overall, the fineness and the crispness of the lens and the crosshairs, I mean, if you can hold something steady enough, I mean, you could hit a tic-tac at 25 yards all day. I mean, the optic is that great. I've probably put 250, 300 rounds through this setup. I've not had an issue. This setup for Airgun Springer recoil. I mean, a Springer in 22 cal Magnum is absolutely significant. And you have to get used to that and learn how to hold the artillery hold. So this foregrip here, you want to put no pressure whatsoever. Literally just allow the air gun to rest and do its thing in the action of the shoot and have a good follow through. And with practice, you'll learn how that's done watching your groups. But I will say that since I've owned this rifle, it's been about a year, and I've taken between 100 and 200 squirrels with this rifle, and the power on target is undeniable. It's lights out all day. But I've noticed with not just with the scope upgrade, but most especially with these new pellets, absolute game changer. Now the scope was an awesome game changer, but the pellets absolutely took it to a whole nother level. Now I will say, when you mount the scope up on these Springer air rifles, you need to make sure you mount them correctly. Use removable blue Loctite thread locker, and you want to torque anywhere between 15 and 18 inch-pounds on the rings. And on the basis, I would say 30 inch-pounds, where the scope mounts connect to the receiver of the rifle, and use blue Loctite on that as well. The recoil in these rifles is significant, and it's very important. For example, the original Gamo scope that was on this rifle, I did not remount it. It came with the rings attached to the scope. I just attached the rings to the base, and the rings that was around the scope tube, they ended up becoming loose, and that was from the factory. So if you're going to run the Gamo scope, I would absolutely go ahead and remount that, make sure the torques are correct with the blue Loctite. Coming up in the future, I'm going to do, using the GoPro, I'm going to do a few squirrel hunts, so I have some actual footage of what this rifle can do in the woods. I'm not a big target shooter. I mostly just target shoot when I get a new pellet, new cartridge, and or a new scope, some type of optic setups, or if maybe I drop the rifle or bump the scope and I need to double check it. That's usually the only time I'm shooting at targets. My thing is hunting. I love going after all sorts of animals and critters. That's my thing. I have the most fun doing that, and it's population control. But I will definitely get some footage on that. Now, you might have some questions. How can Gamo improve this? Or maybe there's other Springer manufacturers out there that want to get a leg up. Now, this rifle has a magazine that holds 10 rounds. I'm gonna break it out here. Also, let me know it has iron sights. So if something were to happen to your scope, you could take the scope off and have some iron sights. And they don't get in the way, believe it or not, of the scope. I haven't found it to be an issue. But you can buy extra magazines. You can see the copper coated pellet in there now. You can get extra magazines. I got 3 extra, but it's good just to be able to break the barrel and reload, not having to open a tin, push a pellet in the barrel. So I'm not aware of other manufacturers that have the magazine set up, and you can just have extra magazines, pop them in, and you're good to go. But how can Gamo make this better? I would say, well, you can always increase magazine capacity. That would be one option. Maybe go to a 20 round rotary, maybe have it side mounted, for example. And I would say maybe they come out with a bullpup version. So maybe somehow have the piston underneath and have the barrel on top, so that way you cut the length of the rifle almost in half to make it more compact and have more balance, have more of the weight of the rifle back on towards the shooter's body. And again, have maybe the magazine set up on the side, or perhaps even underneath. That way it's fully clear of the scope. Now I have the scope mounted as far forward as I can, because this whole unit here breaks up when I break the barrel to charge it. But great thing about a Springer air rifle is you don't have to worry about carrying around air, tanks, pumps, regulators, all of that. You definitely don't want to leave this stored for long at all with it charged. You need to discharge it if you think you're not going to be shooting it, say within a couple of hours. It's not good. It's the opposite for a PCP, by the way. Now, my other question is, how long is the life of the piston in these Springers? That is a question of mine. If you happen to know that, definitely leave a comment down below. But this is pretty much my ultimate Springer break barrel setup. It's also, I guess you could say, a 1 year review of the Gamo Swarm Magnum 10X 22. But comment down below, what are your thoughts on these topics? Are you aware of an even higher quality pellet manufacturer? Because I'm always looking for a better pellet. So far, to the best of my knowledge, this is the best manufacturer I have found. But definitely comment down below. What do you like for scope setups on your Springers? What do you prefer? And what range do you like to sight in your Springers at? 25 yards, 50 yards, what do you like? Tap the thumbs up icon, share this video, tap the subscribe button, and I will put links down below for everything that you see in this video, the rifle, the scope, and the pellets. But I appreciate you watching. Have a great day.